again. My name is Sandra Sinamapeni. Let's do the second half of business. And in less than 24 hours, the Joy Business and Sports Desk will join forces to bring you a detailed and informative show on the football transfer deadline day. I'm particularly so excited because my weekends will be back to life with the EPL, and there's never going to be a dull moment. And as you may know, the transfer deadline day is a term used to describe the last day of player movements from specific countries. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., the window for the English Premier League will close. So far, £1.46 billion have been spent by the Premier League clubs, and more is expected to be done by close of business tomorrow. Joining me in the studio for more discussion on this is Gary Al Smith from the Sports Desk. Gary, thanks so much for joining me. I mean, let's start with you. We'll be going also to the UK to speak to a football analyst, but before we do that, I mean, £1.46 billion. That could be a country's GDP. Who is spending what and on who?
That's a good question. So, I mean, spending means that there has to be a buyer, there has to be a seller. But in the case of the Premier League in particular, in football transfers in general, there are so many people along the spending chain. So there's first the person who will give the interest that I want this player. So the prospective buyer.
Like the clubs?
The clubs,
okay.
Yes, obviously. The prospective buyer will ask the prospective seller that I want your player. And then the prospective seller will say that, all right, my player is available for such and such an amount. Can we do that? And then the old-fashioned bargaining begins. Throughout the bargaining process, there are so many, things that are involved. But essentially, they either come to a price, they don't. So you either pay outright, or just like in any selling arrangement, you pay in installments that are agreed between the two parties.
But back to the money, 1.4 so far. We are not done. Tomorrow is the deadline. You're going to see crazy transfers and the amounts that are going to be involved. I wanted to know, like, why is it becoming extremely expensive to get players in the EPL?
Well, supply and demand, simple economics. The EPL is the most watched league in the world. It's the most popular league in the world. And so with more eyeballs, it means then that every player plying their trade in the league has a certain premium. It's as simple as that. And so because of that, if you feature in the league, your price goes up marginally, or in some cases it goes up exponentially depending on your skill and who you are.
Okay, so obviously huge spending is business as usual, and some analysts have actually said that it's killing the game because money is involved in so obscene. And so these days, will you agree that it is actually killing the soul of the game, like, I mean, the money, because I mean, it's all about passion, but now it's business?
I mean, I could answer this in many ways, but Ghana, we've had our own issues with money, especially where the Black Stars, are concerned. There were days when passion used to be the only ingredient you needed, but we as a nation decided around 2006 that we needed to motivate some of our players with money, and now it has become a culture. The same thing happened in the Premier League and elsewhere. Now money has become the most important ingredient. Sandra, to the extent that agents are taking as much as £20 million on commission on one player.
Crazy.
So what it means is that an agent can influence where a player would go when really he knows that you don't have to pay them.
All right, let me pause you for a moment, and we want to go to the UK. We've been joined by Skype by Nina Kauza, who is joining us via Skype. Good evening, my fellow co-pilot. You never walk alone.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a quiet one for us, but plenty of action in the Premier League, as you guys have just highlighted there.
All right, so first of all, we've been talking about the crazy spending in the EPL, and actually people are saying that it's killing the soul of the game. What do you make of that?
I think the transfer window started off pretty quietly, and I felt like it kind of needed like a domino effect or something to kind of snowball this mad spending. And I think the Maguire transfer fee, making the most expensive defender now, has just set everyone off. You're seeing Eriksen being linked to Manchester United. Isn't he going? Is he going? There's just been absolute madness. And there's rumours about David Luiz, who potentially wants to go to Arsenal. I think Gary hit the nail on the head in the sense that it is supply and demand. It is the most watched league. The money is evenly distributed as well amongst the teams when they get sort of featured on television. So I think, you have average teams who can actually spend big money. Everton have done great business as well. It pains me to say it, but they've done really well. And yeah, some would argue, people who watch other leagues like the Bundesliga, for example, will say that, we are destroying the soul of football, but there's just so much money in the game in the Premier League, and it's to be expected.
Gary is nodding in agreement to that. But let me ask you, even the smallest teams in the Premier League, for instance, we talk about Wolves and Norwich, for instance, can afford wages that big clubs in countries can only dream of. How much do you think is actually too much?
I mean, like, this is a personal thing of mine, but I feel like there is a certain inflation on British players. And I say that because I look at Harry Maguire and I think he's a good defender, but I do not think he's worth 80 million. I feel like Manchester United have paid something like 30 million more than what they should have. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think it just depends on a club and their means. I think we need to respect financial fair play as well. Personally, I think if you need a player, I know you're a fellow Liverpool supporter, and the Virgil van Dijk. I remember when Liverpool signed him, and everyone was sort of mocking Liverpool for the amount they spent on another Southampton player. And look where he is now. People would say Liverpool got an absolute bargain for him. He is genuinely a world-class defender now. So I think it kind of depends. I think a club has to live within their means, and if it's a player that they truly need, then I feel that it's absolutely fine, but I also feel like, when you look at, say, somebody like Real Madrid, who have been in the pursuit and chase of somebody like Paul Pogba for quite a while now, and there's rumours that they can't afford him, and you just sit there and you think, oh my God, Real Madrid cannot afford Paul Pogba. So I think there's a gulf in terms of how much money there is in this league.
All right, Nina, I'll surely come back to you, but Gary, yes, she spoke about fair play and financial terms. I asked her how much is actually too much, and what do you make of that?
How much is too much?
Yes.
If you sold this piece of paper you are holding to me, and I value this piece of paper to be £1 million, that is what I'll pay for it. So it's just exactly that. It's a buyer's market, and it's a seller's market.
Do you think that players are overrated? They are paying sums of money that they don't deserve. Like she spoke about Van Dijk, for instance. Yes, of course, he's a good defender, but the amount Liverpool paid for him was worth it.
Van Dijk is a classic example of a player that we should use for this discussion, because he alone, I mean, a lot of people will say that he's the only reason why Liverpool were able to win the Champions League. And you are a Liverpool fan, so that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's very difficult. If I value a player at 1 million and you feel that, no, I think it's 2 million and I can pay and you can pay for it, fair game.
All right, I think we should go back to Nina quickly. I mean, tomorrow is the deadline. We've spent £1.46 billion so far. Do you think we are going to go double that, or what are your predictions for tomorrow?
I cannot believe that it might be a really busy last day of the transfer window. I mean, it kind of hurts me as a Liverpool supporter in a sense that it's I'm watching other teams do business. I mean, from my standpoint, I can't see Liverpool doing much. I think, there's still a lot of business up in the air. I don't know what's going to happen with Eriksen. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? If he goes, will it be an English team? David Luiz, what's going to happen with him? It's just really interesting. I think there will be some movement. But I don't think it'll be as crazy as what the British media sort of hype it up to be, because I think a lot of it is hearsay and, just cheap talk to kind of like clickbait articles and, just get people watching Sky Sports News 24/7, get hooked to the television screens. I remember once Gary Neville tweeted ages ago that it says a lot about a club when they leave their transfer business to the very last day. So it'll be quite interesting to see who sort of does the panic buys and what goes through. I mean, there's a whole Lukaku business as well. Is that going to happen for him at Inter Milan? So it's really exciting to see actually which ones will make it over the line. But I kind of feel like it started off really slow, and now this sort of transfer window has just taken just a life of its own now. It's actually been quite exciting for other teams bar Liverpool.
All right, Nina Kauza, thanks so much. She's a football analyst. She joined us from the United Kingdom. She's a Liverpool fan. Before I go quickly, tomorrow we have a whole lineup for the deadline. What should we expect?
Right, we'll be doing it from 3 to 6 p.m. So please join us for that. I'll be having more details in the sport. which is coming out.
All right, sure. Thanks for your time. And to the commodity market now, where crude oil lost over $2 to sell at $56.36 a barrel. Gold, however, went for $1,506.77 an ounce. That's how we wrap up for business tonight with me, Sandra Esinam Apene. Thanks so much for your time. But there's more news on myjoyonline.com/business.